Welcome to the Evolution Studio Works podcast series. This conversation offers a comprehensive guide to establishing and operating a successful nonprofit organization, emphasizing a structured, data-driven approach. They outline the essential steps from identifying community needs through a problem-solution promotion (PSP) framework and establishing a clear mission and vision to navigating the legal processes of state registration, obtaining an EIN, and securing 501c3 tax-exempt status. Furthermore, they underscore the importance of strategic promotion, building a digital footprint, effective board management, cultivating networks, and understanding that nonprofit does not mean no profit for long-term sustainability and impact. Let's listen into the conversation.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights you need. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the world of launching and sustaining a nonprofit. For so many of us, there's this really powerful desire to make a positive impact in our communities, to truly make a difference. But let's be honest, the initial thought of navigating all the legalities, the fundraising, the endless logistics, it can feel incredibly overwhelming, almost paralyzing sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It often looks like a maze from the outside, doesn't it? Filled with confusing terms and, well, a lot of uncertainty about where you even begin.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to give you a clear step-by-step roadmap, right from that initial spark of an idea, all the way to hopefully long-term sustainable impact. We want to cut through that complexity, translate the jargon, and maybe most importantly, debunk some really common myths along the way.
Yeah, those myths can really hold people back.
Definitely. And this deep dive, it's built on some fantastic insights. We've looked at comprehensive study guides, expert video discussions from the nonprofit launcher, really valuable stuff for anyone considering this. So as we start down this roadmap, what's that very first most critical step, especially if you're maybe not 100% sure which direction to go?
Right. The nonprofit launcher materials are super clear on this. The crucial first step is conducting a community needs assessment. It's not just like a nice to have. It's about collecting actual concrete data about the problem you think you want to solve and the community you want to serve. It really is the foundation. Okay,
so it's about validating the need, not just running on passion or assumption. And the sources mention this framework, the PSP formula, problem, solution, promotion. Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. So problem, do the research, get the data, don't guess. Solution. Based on that data, what valuable programs or services will you offer? And promotion. How you campaign, market, get the word out.
And why is that data part so vital? Can't pure passion carry you through?
Passion is your engine, definitely. But the data, that's your map. The sources use this phrase, the math is the map. They even say something quite provocative. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. Basically meaning objective data cuts through assumptions.
Right, it makes your case harder to ignore.
Exactly. And without understanding the real need, you can't create real value. That data-driven approach, it's absolutely vital for getting sponsorships, attracting donors, because the principle is simple. Money follows value.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Build the case with facts. So once you've got that solid understanding of the community need, you know your why, where does the roadmap lead next?
Next up is defining your core identity. You need a clear mission, vision, and purpose. And here's something crucial, often missed, especially the financial side. All the funds your nonprofit generates, they must align with that mission.
Why is that so strict?
Well, otherwise you risk something called unrelated business income tax, or UBIT. Basically, it's a tax on income your nonprofit makes that's not directly tied to its charitable mission. Keeping things aligned is absolutely essential to maintain your tax-exempt status.
Gotcha. So everything circles back to the mission. Now, crafting that mission statement, it can feel a bit, daunting. Getting the wording perfect? Do the sources offer any help there?
They do, actually. They suggest using modern tools like ChatGPT even, just to help draft initial mission statements.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, think of it as a starting point,
Yeah.
A useful guideline to get you going, something you can then refine.
Huh.
It just helps break the writer's block sometimes.
That's a practical tip. Okay, so mission and vision are shaping up. Now, the team, specifically the board of directors. What are the key things to know or maybe common mistakes people make when putting that initial board together?
Well, first off, it often surprises people that for filing purposes, most states only require a minimum of, 3 board members.
Just 3.
Yep. And here's the kicker. That can include the founder. And even family members, sisters, cousins, aunts, whatever, they're totally permissible for the initial filing and won't stop you getting approved.
Really? I thought there were strict rules against family.
Not for the initial setup, generally. People often feel this pressure to find these, perfect super-connected board members right away. But the sources really emphasize you can change board members later. Once you're approved by the state, once you get that 501c3 status, you've got the flexibility to build out or adjust the board as you grow. Don't let finding the perfect board stop you from starting.
Okay, that takes some pressure off. So, foundation laid, core identity forming. Now we hit the legal stuff. This feels like where people really get tangled up. Let's start with a big point of confusion. Becoming a nonprofit with your state versus getting 501c3 status. Are they the same?
No, absolutely not. And this trips so many people up. They are two distinct things. Becoming a nonprofit with your state means you're legally recognized by that state as a nonprofit entity. You get a certificate of formation, that's state level. Getting 501c status, that's a separate IRS tax code thing. It grants federal tax-exempt status. That's what allows donors to deduct contributions and exempts you from federal income tax. State legal entity first, then federal tax status.
Okay, that distinction is critical. So focusing on the state part first, how do you actually do that? What's the process generally look like?
You'll typically file with your state's Secretary of State. And the good news is most states now let you do this online. Much easier than it used to be.
That's helpful.
Just one thing to watch out for. Some states, like California or Maryland, I use different terms, like non-stock organization or non-stock corporation instead of nonprofit organization. Just be aware of the terminology in your specific state. You'll also need a registered agent. It's basically someone who lives in the state where you're filing, and they agree to receive any official legal documents for your organization. But it doesn't have to be some fancy service. The founder or the secretary can usually do this role, and when you file, you'll sign as the incorporator. But it's really important to understand, with a nonprofit, there's technically no owner. You and the board govern it for the mission.
Right. Governed, not owned. Makes sense. Okay, state filing done. What's the next item on the legal checklist? The nonprofit needs its own ID, right?
That's right. You need an EIN, employer identification number. Think of it like a social security number, but for your organization.
Okay. And how do you get that?
Crucial tip from the sources here.
Yeah.
Get it for free directly from the IRS website. Don't ever pay someone for an EIN.
Good tip. Free is good.
But here's a common mistake. Getting an EIN alone doesn't make you a real entity. You absolutely must file with your state first and get that certificate of formation. Both are required. An EIN without state filing is, kind of useless for being an official nonprofit. Got it. State first, then EIN. Now, the sources also mention something called a Dun & Bradstreet number, a D&B number. Why would a nonprofit need that? Seems more like a business thing.
That's exactly why it's important, even for nonprofits. It lets your organization establish business credit, just like a for-profit. This is huge because it allows you to build relationships with banks, maybe get lines of credit, potentially even loans down the line. It opens up financial doors that many nonprofits don't even realize exist.
Wow, okay. Building business credit as a nonprofit, that's a perspective shift. And that brings us to the big one, the one everyone asks about, maybe even fears a little. Getting that federal tax-exempt status, the 501c3 application. What's involved there?
Okay, so there are two main application forms for 501c3. There's Form 1023, that's the long one. It costs $600. You use this if you expect your nonprofit to bring in $50,000 or more in gross revenue within its first 2 years.
$50,000 or more. Okay, what's the other one? That's Form 1023-EZ. It's the streamlined, easier version. Costs $275. You use this if you expect less than $50,000 in those first 2 years. But here's a critical detail the sources really stress. Churches, they always have to use the long form, the 1023, regardless of expected revenue.
Good to know. Churches always use the long form. So besides picking the right form, what kind of information do you need to pull together for the application itself?
You'll need things like your board member roles, that EIN you got, basic info about the organization, and something called an NTE code.
NTE code. What's that?
It stands for National Taxonomy of Exempt Entities Code. It's basically the IRS's way of categorizing what kind of nonprofit you are. Education, health, arts, environment, etc.
How do you figure out your code?
The sources suggest, even ChatGPT can help you identify the right category and potential code. It's a classification thing. And one really practical, super important detail they emphasize. Use a physical mailing address on your application and for all official IRS stuff. Not a P.O. box. They need a street address.
Physical address. Got it. Not a P.O. box. What about timelines? You hear horror stories about waiting forever for IRS approval.
Yeah, ignore the really long backlogs sometimes mentioned on the IRS site. The sources give more realistic timelines based on current experience, usually around 30-45 days for the easy application and maybe 45-90 days for the long form.
Oh, that's much faster than I would have thought.
Right. So don't let fear of year-long waits stop you from submitting. It's generally much quicker these days.
Okay, that's encouraging. So we've navigated the legal maze, got the approvals. Now what? How do we move from being officially set up to actually making an impact and growing strategically?
Yeah.
What's the blueprint for that?
Well, that blueprint is really your business plan. And this is where we circle back to that PSP framework: problem, solution, promotion. But now in your business plan, you really need to flesh it out, especially the problem part with that data we talked about. Show the validated need.
So the data isn't just for starting, it's for planning too.
Exactly. And your business plan should also include what the sources call a conceptual budget.
Conceptual budget, meaning not exact numbers.
Right. It's a projected financial outline, what you anticipate income and expenses might look like. It paints a picture, a vision for your financial future, without needing every single penny nailed down right at the start. It's a living document. It'll evolve.
Okay, a flexible financial vision. Now, you mentioned PSP problem, solution, promotion. The sources apparently highlight one of these as the greatest aspect. Which one?
Promotion, hands down.
Really? More than the solution itself?
Well, think about it. Promotion covers everything from campaigning and marketing to relationship building, networking, events, fundraising, all of it. And the principle they drive home is powerful. Best known beats best product every time.
Wow. Say that again?
Best known beats best product every time.
Huh.
You could have the most amazing program, but if nobody knows about it, how can it succeed? How can you get funding? How can you serve people? Promotion makes mission possible.
That really flips the perspective. You have to be known. And in, 2025 and beyond, a huge part of being known is your digital footprint, right? Where should nonprofits start with that?
Absolutely non-negotiable today. Start with a website. That's your core digital home base. Then build out from there. Create consistent content on social media. Maybe start a newsletter. Put out educational videos on YouTube. All of this raises awareness. Crucially, it also lets potential supporters check you out independently, see your work, and form their own positive view of your organization. It builds trust and credibility.
So digital presence is key for visibility and trust. What about keeping the internal team engaged, especially that board? How do you make sure they stay committed for the long haul?
Well, the sources suggest holding that very first board meeting pretty early on. It helps you quickly gauge who's genuinely willing to roll up their sleeves and put in the time and effort.
Sort of sussing out the real commitment level?
Exactly. It's almost like applying the hire slow and fire fast idea to board members.
Yeah.
See who's really engaged. Beyond that, it's about building a true network, not just people you know casually.
What does a true network mean in this context?
It means proactively going out and building relationships with, as the sources put it, strangers or people in positions of business. Think local leaders, politicians, small business owners, people who can potentially help or connect you. And a big part of attracting these people, attracting followers and support in general, is vision casting, clearly communicating where you're going.
That ties into something powerful quoted in the sources, a scripture. Where there is no vision, the people shall perish. Or another translation, when there is no vision, the people cast off restraint.
Precisely. A clear vision for the future inspires commitment. It gives people something to rally around, a reason to act with discipline towards that goal.
So the advice is, talk about the future of your organization. Constantly. Paint that compelling picture. Okay, now let's shift gears slightly and tackle some of those myths we mentioned earlier, the ones that often stop people cold. What's the absolute biggest misconception we need to bust right now?
Oh, easily. It's the idea that nonprofit means no money.
Right. The name itself is kind of misleading.
It really is. The key clarification is that nonprofit essentially means non-pocketing of excess profits. Any surplus revenue has to be reinvested back into the organization's mission. But, and this is the crucial part, founders and staff can absolutely be paid reasonable salaries through payroll.
So you can earn a living working for your nonprofit?
Yes. The phrase is, nonprofit does not mean no profit. No organization, for-profit or nonprofit, can survive without bringing in revenue. You need money to operate and fulfill the mission.
Okay, myth busted. Good. Next one, funding. People automatically think grants when they hear nonprofit funding. Is that where most of the money actually is?
That's another huge misconception. The data cited in the sources is pretty eye-opening. Grants actually make up only about 16% of the total money flowing into the nonprofit sector.
Only 16%. Wow. So where's the other 84% coming from?
Exactly. It means lots of other opportunities are being missed. Think sponsorships, memberships, setting up recurring revenue streams, business partnerships, even simple donations. The core advice here is to focus on creating genuinely valuable programs, services, offers, things that people actually want to pay your organization for. That often leads to more sustainable revenue than just chasing grant cycles.
Create value people will pay for. Got it. Myth number 3, and we touched on this a bit with boards. My friend told me my family absolutely cannot be on my board. True or false?
Mostly false, especially for the initial setup. The sources confirm family members are generally permissible for filing purposes. The key is avoiding conflicts of interest later on, particularly around payment or financial benefit. But for getting started, that initial trusted circle is often okay.
Good clarification. Okay, here's a big one. I can just set up a nonprofit corporation with the state, not get the 501c status, and still get basically the same benefits like tax deductions for donors. Possible.
Absolutely 100% not true. This is a dangerous myth. Without that official 501c tax-exempt status from the IRS, your nonprofit loses almost all its major benefits. Donors can't deduct contributions, and the organization itself could end up paying taxes just like a regular LLC or S-Corp.
So that 501c3 is really the key differentiator.
It's crucial. You really need to have the intent and follow-through to become federally tax-exempt if you want the full advantages of being a nonprofit.
Makes sense. Okay, next myth relates to funding again. Sponsorships and partnerships work just like grants. You just fill out applications online.
Nope, generally not the case. While some might have formal processes, the sources emphasize that sponsorships and partnerships are overwhelmingly relationship-driven, meaning you usually have to get out there, make personal connections, build rapport, shake hands with business owners, executives, community leaders. It's about building trust face-to-face, or at least connection to connection.
So it's less about applying and more about connecting.
Exactly, which leads to another principle. If you want to be fundable, you've got to be findable. You can't just wait for opportunities to land in your inbox. You need to be visible, active in the community, building those relationships.
Findable, not hidden. Which connects to the next myth. You can build a super successful nonprofit totally in the dark. Like without any real promotion, no website, no social media, just quietly doing good work.
Yeah, that's pretty much impossible today. How would anyone know you exist? How would funders find you? How would people access your services? The sources suggest a simple gut check. Look at your own phone contacts. How many people have you actually told about your nonprofit idea or organization? Promotion, especially digital, isn't optional anymore.
Right. Visibility is essential. Okay, the final myth, and this one really stops people because it taps into fear. If I mess up financially or make a mistake on my reporting, I'm going to jail. How realistic is that fear?
It's a very common fear. And thankfully, it's largely unfounded for typical mistakes. If you make genuine errors in financial reporting, the usual consequences are things like fines, maybe warnings, or guidance from the IRS on how to correct things, not prison.
Okay, so it's usually penalties, not prison bars.
Exactly. The main exception to mention is like years and years of completely failing to file required reports. That can lead to automatic revocation of your 501c3 status, which is serious, but still generally not jail time unless there's outright fraud involved.
So the takeaway is, don't let the fear of making honest mistakes paralyze you.
Please don't. The sources have a great line. Competence brings confidence. And sometimes the quickest way to figure out how to do it right is to hurry up and do it wrong. Learn by doing, correct mistakes, and move forward.
Hurry up and do it wrong to learn faster. I like that. It's permission to be imperfect. Now, shifting back to funding for a moment. Are there particular types of nonprofits, specific niches, that tend to attract more funding overall?
Yes, the sources do list the top 7 most funded niches based on data. They are education, health and medical, human services and community programs, environment and climate, arts and culture, international relief and development, and public society benefit and advocacy.
So those areas generally see more funding flow.
They do, but here's the critical insight that the sources really hammer home. It's about the WHO, not the DO.
The WHO, not the DO, meaning?
Meaning the belief, the conviction, the drive, the capacity of the founder or the leader often matters more than the specific niche they're in. A passionate, capable leader can find funding even in a less popular niche. Your leadership is key.
So it comes back to the person driving it, which means as a founder, you constantly need to ask yourself that question. What makes me or my organization different? What's our unique value?
Exactly. And some key success factors tie into that. Really aligning your work with what specific funders care about, being able to show measurable results, even if you have to offer free services at first, just to get testimonials and proof of impact, and critically, committing to your own continuous personal development. You have to expand your capacity to lead a growing organization.
Grow yourself to grow the impact makes total sense. Wow. Okay, so we've really covered a lot of ground here. A full roadmap, starting with that community need, navigating the state and federal legal stuff, building the plan, focusing on promotion, busting a ton of myths.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive path. My biggest piece of advice now, hearing all this, is honestly just to put the pedal to the metal. Set some deadlines for yourself. Avoid getting stuck in endless planning or rationalization loops. Just start. And really embrace those mistakes when they happen. They're not failures. They're just learning opportunities on the way to getting it right. Don't let perfectionism stall you.
Right. Action over endless planning. So for everyone listening, the final thought is this. You likely already have everything you need to get started on what you want to achieve. And there are people out there waiting for the impact only you can make. So the real question is, what is the very next concrete step you will take, knowing that taking action, even imperfect action, is always the fastest path to clarity and actually making that difference?